Chapter 3 of Babbitt. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Mike Vendetti. MikeVendetti.com. Babbitt. By Sinclair Lewis. Chapter 3. To George F. Babbitt, as to most prosperous citizens of the Zenith, his motor car was poetry and tragedy, love and heroism. The office was his pirate ship, but the car his perilous excursion ashore. Among the tremendous crises of each day, none was more dramatic than starting the engine. It was slow on cold mornings. There was the long, anxious whir of the starter, and sometimes he had to drip ether into the cocks of the cylinders, which was so very interesting that at lunch he would chronicle it drop by drop, and orally calculate how much each drop had cost him. This morning he was darkly prepared to find something wrong, and he felt belittled when the mixture exploded sweet and strong, and the car didn't even brush the door jamb, gouged and splintery with many bruisings by fenders, as he backed out of the garage. He was confused. He shouted "Mornin'" to Sam Doppelbrau with more cordiality than he had intended. Babbitt's green and white Dutch colonial house was one of three on that block of Chatham Road. To the left of it was the residence of Mr. Samuel Doppelbrau, secretary of an excellent firm of bathroom fixture jobbers. His was a comfortable house with no architectural manners whatever. A large wooden box with a squat tower, a broad porch, and glossy paint, yellow as a yolk. Babbitt disapproved of Mr. and Mrs. Doppelbrau as bohemian. From their house came midnight music and obscene laughter. There were neighborhood rumors of bootleg whiskey and fast motor rides. They furnished Babbitt with many happy evenings of discussion, during which he announced firmly, "I'm not straight-laced, and I don't mind seeing a fellow throw a drink once in a while, but when it comes to deliberately trying to get away with a lot of hell-raising, all the while like the Doppelbraus do, it's too rich for my blood." On the other side of Babbitt lived Howard Littlefield, Ph.D., in a strictly modern house whereof the lower part was dark red tapestry brick with a leaded oriel, the upper part of pale stucco, like spattered clay, and the roof red-tiled. Littlefield was the great scholar of the neighborhood, the authority on everything in the world except babies, cooking, and motors. He was a Bachelor of Arts of Blodgett College and a Doctor of Philosophy and Economics of Yale. He was the employment manager and publicity counsel of the Zenith Street Traction Company. He could, on 10 hours' notice, appear before the Board of Aldermen or the State Legislature and prove absolutely, with figures all in rows and with precedents from Poland and New Zealand, that the street-car company loved the public and yearned over its employees, that all its stock was owned by widows and orphans, and that whatever it desired to do would benefit property owners by increasing rental values and help the poor by lowering rents. All his acquaintances turned to Littlefield when they desired to know the date of the Battle of Saragossa, the definition of the word sabotage, the future of the German mark, the translation of Hinc Illæ Lacrimoni, or the number of products of coal tar. He awed Babbitt by confessing that he often sat up till midnight, reading the figures and footnotes in government reports, or skimming, with amusement at the author's mistakes, the latest volumes of chemistry, archaeology, and ichthyology. But Littlefield's great value was as a spiritual example. Despite his strange learnings, he was as strict a Presbyterian and as firm a Republican as George F. Babbitt. He confirmed the business men in the faith, where they knew only by passionate instinct that their system of industry and manners was perfect. Dr. Howard Littlefield proved it to them, out of history, economics, and the confessions of reformed radicals. Babbitt had a good deal of honest pride in being the neighbor of such a savant, and in Ted's intimacy with Eunice Littlefield. At 16, Eunice was interested in no statistics save those regarding the ages and salaries of motion-picture stars. But as Babbitt definitively put it, she was her father's daughter. The difference between a light man like Sam Doppelbrau and a very fine character like Littlefield was revealed in their appearances. Tarpelow was disturbingly young for a man of 48. He wore his derby on the back of his head, and his red face was wrinkled with meaningless laughter. But Littlefield was an old man of 42. He was tall, broad, thick. His gold-rimmed spectacles were engulfed in the folds of his long face. His hair was a tossed mass of greasy blackness. He puffed and rumbled as he talked. His Phi Beta Kappa key shone against the spotty black vest. He smelled of old pipes. He was altogether funereal and archidonical, and to real estate brokerage and the jobbing of bathroom fixtures he added an aroma of sanctity. This morning he was in front of his house, inspecting the grass parking between the curb and the broad cement sidewalk. Babbitt stopped his car and leaned out to shout, "Mornin'!" Littlefield lumbered over and stood with one foot up on the running board. "Fine morning," said Babbitt, lighting, illegally early, his second cigar of the day. "Yes, it's a mighty fine morning," said Littlefield. "Spring coming along fast now." "Yes, it's real spring now, all right," said Littlefield. "Still cold nights, though. Had to have a couple of blankets on the sleeping porch last night." "Yes, it wasn't any too warm last night," said Littlefield. "But I don't anticipate we'll have any more real cold weather now." "No, but still, there was snow at Taffa's, Montana, yesterday," said the scholar. "And you remember the blizzard they had out West 3 days ago, 30 inches of snow in Greeley, Colorado. And 2 years ago we had a snow squall right here in Zenith on the 25th of April." "Is that a fact? Say, old man, what do you think about the Republican candidate? Who'll they nominate for president? Don't you think it's about time we had a real business administration?" "In my opinion, what the country needs first and foremost is a good, sound, businesslike conduct of its affairs. What we need is a business administration," said Littlefield. "I'm glad to hear you say that. I certainly am glad to hear you say that. I don't know how you'd feel about it, with all your associations with colleges and so on, and I'm glad you feel that way. What the country needs just at this present juncture is neither a college president nor a lot of monkeying with foreign affairs, but a good, sound, economical business administration that will give us a chance to have something like a decent turnover." "Yes, it isn't generally realized that even in China the schoolmen are giving way to more practical men, and of course you can see what that implies." "It is a fact. Well," breathed Babbitt, feeling much calmer and much happier about the way things were going in the world. "Well, it's been nice to stop and parlez-vous a second. Guess I'll have to get down to the office now and sting a few clients. Well, so long, old man. See you tonight. So long." 2. They had labored, these solid citizens, 20 years before. The hill on which Floral Heights was spread, with its bright roofs and immaculate turf and amazing comfort, had been a wilderness of rank second-growth elms and oaks and maples. Along the precise streets were still a few wooded vacant lots and the fragment of an old orchard. It was brilliant today. The apple boughs were lit with fresh leaves like torches of green fire. The first white of cherry blossoms flickered down a gully, and robins clamored. Babbitt sniffed the earth, chuckled at the hysteric robins, as he would have chuckled at kittens or at a comic movie. He was, to the eye, the perfect office-going executive, a well-fed man in a correct brown soft hat and frameless spectacles, smoking a large cigar, driving a good motor along a semi-suburban parkway. But in him was some genius of authentic love for his neighborhood, his city, his clan. The winter was over. The time has come for the building, the visible growth, which to him was glory. He lost his dawn depression. He was ruddily cheerful, and he stopped on Smith Street to leave the brown trousers and to have the gasoline tank filled. The familiarity of the rite fortified him. The sight of the tall red iron gasoline pump, the hollow tile and terracotta garage, the window full of the most agreeable accessories, shiny casings, spark plugs, and immaculate porcelain jacklets, tire chains of gold and silver. He was flattered by the friendliness with which Sylvester Moon, dirtiest and most skilled of motor mechanics,